Hello, and welcome to the second day of February 2022. My name is Kurt, and this is the Good Life Meditation. This is something that I do each and every day, first thing at dawn, to remind myself of my life objectives and principles, and to see how I'm doing applying these to the day that just completed last night and the coming day. Yesterday was a very straightforward day. I was able to deliver the last of the 3 lessons that I'm going to record in a 4-lesson training series that I created. It took me 4 attempts to get it right, and each attempt takes about an hour or more to prepare for and then deliver. But I think I've got it down, which, hi dogs, is a huge relief. Hi. A huge relief, because this means that I've got the package complete. What this really means is that the thing that I was hired to do, to come to this place of work and create this program, it's in place. The announcements are out. Training rosters beginning to fill with students. We're on our way. This means that I can change gears. Come on. I can switch gears to the other project that's coming up. I have another big project, and I have a lot of reading to do to catch up on that. So I'll do that today. I'm really happy that the timing went well. Life is easy when things work out. It's the other stuff that's more challenging. And as a result, I slept good last night, but as usual, I was up at 3 a.m. Seems to be a routine in the last couple of weeks. Not anything in particular on my mind, but just that semi sleep. And I know in the past that when I was getting up early like that was a sign of stress. But I'm not under a lot of stress. Maybe I'm just getting older and needing less sleep. Because I do go to bed very early every night, so that might be it. Okay, let's do the good life. First, my 7 objectives. 1, to be always ready to die. To have everything in my life in as settled and ready state as possible, including my finances, my relationships, and my life's work. 2, to make good and effective use of time. To be very careful with how I'm utilizing my days and my hours and my minutes, so that I can be proud of what I've done and be satisfied that I've made a good effort and haven't just lived a life in vain. Although it's all in vain in the end, I imagine. But I don't operate. That may be true, but I don't operate that way. I operate like it all means something. Number 3 is to develop and maintain good and sound life principles. That's these objectives and principles that I'm reciting right now. And I do that by every morning spending time focused on them, as I'm doing now. Next is to cultivate good emotional reactions, to react well to whatever happens throughout the day. Next is to perform good actions, just to do good things throughout the day. And then to recognize true limits and true opportunities, so that I'm being reasonable in my expectations and applying my energies to reasonable and doable aims. And then the last objective is to just do one thing at a time, and to do that thing slowly, to not multitask. There you go. Those are my 7 objectives. Got through those pretty smartly. Not in terms of intelligence, but I mean timing. I like the way that flowed. Which was my aim this morning. Aimed to do this in a more deliberate manner this morning. Last couple of days, it feels like I spend a lot of time expounding, which is fine, but it's tough to keep that up. Every now and then you kind of have to do it a little slower, just to leave room for everything else. Okay, now my 30 principles, beginning with the principle of war, to fight against what I think is true, and to fight against the propositions of others which seem important. Number 2 is reason and the sub-principles of honesty, objectivity, and doubt, where war is the object, reason is the instrument. Number 3, the homunculus, the reminder that I don't have a soul, but I do have a consciousness. But that consciousness is trapped inside my skull and won't get away when I die. So I am mortal. Next is the Anchorhold, the imagining of a little rock sticking out of a vast sea, and that the homunculus stands upon it, or sits, or reclines, but it's not very comfortable because it's a rock. And the weather comes and the tides rise, and it's a scary place to be. And someday the homunculus will go into the sea and never come back. That'll be death. And from that rock, the homunculus can wave at others and shout, but never really be with others. It's just my way of reminding myself that ultimately we all live and die utterly alone. Even when we're with our friends and family, even when we're there in their embrace, we're still utterly alone. Next is the principle of the home of good and evil. Good and evil are opinions written within our skull by us, collected of our best living and our worst living, and utilized and shared and maybe agreed to by others. They become more powerful and more objective-like when we agree, but nevertheless, they are subjective opinions. Next is purpose. The principle of purpose, that is. And there are 3 sub-purpose. These are biology, with a capital B, which is to fulfill the mandate of my being to reproduce. Number 2 is virtue, not mandated by anybody, but a good best practice, which I've decided to take upon myself to pursue the well-being of thinking creatures, to try to make others happy. And myself too. And then after that comes purpose. Mission. And my mission was and remains the writing and sharing of my book, Going Alone, available on Amazon and on my website, goingalone.org. This is the story of how of the experience that I had that led me to develop the Good Life Creed. Next is the atomic principle. Everything is little bits and pieces, the whole universe. And we're just compounds, molecules and compounds coming together for a brief time to live. That's all. After that comes the principle of nature. Everything has some particular nature, and if I can see what that nature is, then I can better steer my life to be in accord with how things really are. Doesn't mean I have to accept it, but I can deal with it better if I know what it is. Next comes the pirate ride. This is my suggestion that free will is an illusion. I can't prove this, but I expect that though we can make any choice we want, we would never have made any choice other than the ones that we actually do. Because the universe has so much to say in our decisions. The universe at large, that is. Next comes maturity and the sub-principles of wisdom and fortitude. We are mature when we wisely remember our experiences and then have the strength to apply our energies to better ends. Next is the social principle. Though I wrote a book called Going Alone, my life is not about going alone. It's about my interaction and my existence with others, with you even. Anybody that is interested in having a relationship with me, even if it's just consuming a video that I may make. I'm grateful for that, and it's part of my mission in life is to be an outward-facing human being. Because we live better that way. We all do. Even if it seems sometimes that it's against our nature, we still live better to do that. Okay, the next is public speaking. This principle is there to remind me to be very careful about what I say and who I'm talking about, to use very deliberate words. And even if I cultivate a good, rich vocabulary, to pick words that are readily understood, to not show off with showy language. To communicate well, to work to get my meaning across, and to work to understand what others are saying, to be patient, deliberate in my listening. And then above all, to never, ever, ever gossip about other people, where gossip is easily recognized as any language that when we're talking about others, that we would be embarrassed if the person that we're talking about, the object of our speech, overheard what we were saying. Next comes temperance. Where temperance is our controlled consumption of life. And there are 3 sub-principles there as well. Suffering, because we suffer when we live a simple life. Simplicity, because a simple life is a temperate life. And apathy, which is the ability to recognize what is outside of our control and to let that be the case, while nevertheless working to manage life around that fact. The next principle is the horror show. Just my reminder that life is chock full of utterly horrible, terrible things happening everywhere, all the time, to many people, to our pets, and to wildlife at large. It's almost as if sometimes it seems like this is hell on earth, the way so many suffer. No, I don't tell myself that to dwell on that fact, but to catalyze my spirit, to remind myself that though I'm very lucky, I live a very lucky life, very good life, very, very little pain, very little serious challenge, life full of first world problems. There are others who do not. And I need to rally my energies towards those ends. The next principle is called that which must be borne, with an E. We have to bear the responsibilities that we assume as a consequence of the decisions that we make. For example, if we choose to become a parent, it is our responsibility to provide a safe, as much best we can, to the best of our ability, a safe, warm, secure home, 3 square meals, education, safety, and to whatever degree we can muster, love for our children. During the tenure that they are our wards. That's something we just have to bear, and all the things that come with that. Holding down a job, perhaps a job that we don't even like, perhaps a job that makes us miserable. Avoiding, giving up on the things, some pleasures that we might want to take by virtue of our responsibilities. You get the picture. These are the things that must be borne. We also have to bear what we cannot unsee with the horror show, and to not avert our eyes from the things that we should see. I'd like to summarize the horror, the things which must be borne by picturing a sailor pushing through a rough sea, holding to the tiller, keeping the course. Next comes the Feast of Offal. This is my way of picturing in my head how we sometimes blow up when we've had too much. We shout out into the world our upset. And sometimes we do that in the presence of others. And when we do that, we're contaminating those others with our upset. And it impacts others. And they might wind up, it might bring them closer to the edge as well, where they might blow up as well. It's kind of a series that happens, and I want to avoid participating in that series by one, not blowing up myself, and two, when others do blow up, by using apathy to witness that fact. If it's something that I need to witness and take in, maybe I can help after the dust settles, but to not consume the feast myself. If someone's road raging at me, to not take it too personally, and simply try to give them some latitude on the road and let them go by, and not engage in that. Even if I perceive that they were in the wrong. Next comes two principles that kind of go together, like peanut butter and jelly. Distraction, and the principle called the agency and the great indifference. Distraction is what we do when we don't want to see that the universe appears to be devoid of God, appears to be empty, and that we're on our own. That's the great indifference. Yeah, I like the way that came out. Again, like peanut butter and jelly. Next comes the best seat in the house. It's a pretty good seat right here. This one is a reminder to not want to be anyone else or be anything else. Be anything else. Be anyone else. Be doing anything else. Or be anywhere else. But right here, right now, and doing just what I'm doing. Even if it's something really hard. Like yesterday, both Yumiko and I in the morning, we passed our trails cross in the morning as we were getting ready for work, and we both looked at each other. We were not ready for work, but we nevertheless kind of turned up the edge of our lips into a smile. We'll do this. Something which must be borne. And we did, and it turned out to be a good day for both of us. It was hard though. Okay. Then comes a principle called the Path of Wildness, which is my trick and principle. Trick and principle? It's my methodology for moving forward in life from a seemingly stuck position. You know, we get stuck sometimes, right? Stuck in a rut, stuck in a habit, stuck in a mortgage, stuck in a job, stuck in a country, whatever. Some people aren't like that. Some people don't get restless. Yumiko and I get restless. So when we want to make a change, we decide what the context is. What is the change we're considering, and then we collect facts relative to that change. Give ourselves some time to think about it, and then make a decision. And if we need more time, we give ourselves more time. But only so much. We don't allow this process, because you can think about it until all opportunities are lost. At some point we're going to make a decision. And if we don't quite have enough facts, the Path of Wildness suggests leaning in with our gut. Not initially. You do the fact checking, unless it's something that has to happen immediately, but lean in with our gut. I thought that kind of happened yesterday. I was walking the dogs, and we were walking through the desert. Ollie here stopped and started growling, staring into the desert. He saw something. I looked. I picked up little Rudy. I looked where he was looking. He continued to growl, growling. And he wouldn't move. So there was something out there. Most likely a coyote, perhaps. And so I collected just a little bit of facts. I knew that a decision needed to be made. Are we going to continue down into that little valley where he was staring? Or will we back up and go back over the top? We'd come over a ridge into a valley, go back up and over the top. It didn't take much thinking for me to make the decision. Heavily leaned on my gut, right? Which was screaming, "Don't take the dogs down there." Not because I was afraid of what was down there. I don't think there's any mountain lions in this area. I'm not afraid of coyotes, but I am afraid of a pack of coyotes, given that I've got two small dogs, and I have been basically assaulted by a coyote once before with the two dogs that tried to snag Rudy out of my arms. So they can be quite aggressive. So I made the decision to, okay, Ollie, we're coming back, and it was hard to pull him back because he didn't want to go. And as I pulled him back, he started barking at it. Still, I didn't see anything move, and it was getting dark. Okay, just a simple example of the Path of Wildness, leaning in with the gut, collecting some facts, but leaning in eventually, ultimately with the gut, and going with that. Yeah, I looked back, all the way back, making sure nothing was following us. Next comes the principle called the risk of avoiding risk. Life is chock full of risks, and I categorize them into two main types. There's the surface level risks the risks related to adulthood. The surface level risks are the commonly suggested things that we address, like education, spouse, family, home, job, saving for retirement, not necessarily in that order. The reason I call them surface level is that they're readily available, strongly encouraged by nearly everybody in our life, and more easily attained because society is set up and geared that way. There's whole institutions, schools and churches, and for marriage, and place to get a wedding license, hospitals to have babies, banks to lend you a loan on a house, institutions to save for retirement. Whole institutions set up to help us achieve those, and our families and friends strongly encourage us, applaud by the sidelines as we do that. Then there's also another category of risk that I call the deep risk. That's the risk of not addressing the need that some of us seem to have to find ourselves and to have some sort of an experience or an adventure in life that quiets the little man or woman inside of us, perhaps the homunculus that's screaming to live. Now, not everybody is drawn to that. Some people are quite happy with the surface level stuff. They collect them like little jewels, and they get the job in the house, they get the education, the job, the house, the family. They're saving for retirement, and that's enough. But if you're one of those that wants that other thing, if you don't do it, that other thing tends to not go away, and it just seems to speak louder and get more insistent, and it will be a real pain in the butt probably when you're old and you feel like you lived your life and you didn't really live the dream that you wanted. And it's too late, because you can't do it when you're old. It's different. You're too frail and scared. You might do something, but it won't be it. So I recommend doing that when you're young. Give yourself the decade of the 20s for education and adventure, and then come back to us in your 30s, and you can get started with the rest, if you live. Okay, that was the Path of Wildness. No, that's the risk of avoiding risk. Next comes sin and damnation, and there are, I think it's 7, maybe 8. Did I add one? Sins in my worldview, and these are falsity, being untrue, credulity, believing things too easily, hope, which is desire uncoupled from action, faith, where we believe something where we hold that the belief itself is the evidence for the belief, superstition, which is a whole category of beliefs that are clearly seem to be nonsense, authority, where we believe because someone with a big office and a funny hat said it's true, dogma, where we believe because there's a big holy book lined with leather and carried around by a lot of authoritative looking people. It's the blessed tradition. It's the dogma that we follow. And that's it. Yes, it is 7. And the consequence of these, there is 8, because the 8th one is gossip. So it's eight sins. I had those originally. I know what happened, because I took credulity out I took falsity out for a while, and then I realized I needed it back. So it's 8. And then of course gossip, because gossip's nasty. And the consequence of that is we live a damned life. That's why it's sin and damnation, but not in some afterlife, in the here and now. The next one is complete oblivion. When we die, if we have no soul, if there is no God, that means there is no afterlife. And we will be completely gone once the circuitry goes out and our bodies are burned up, rot in the grave, or otherwise are disposed of. So there'll be no reunion in any afterlife. We'll not see our dead loved ones ever again. We'll not have a chance to reconcile with anybody that we left life on bad terms with, and there will be no justice in any afterlife. Criminals that are not punished will get away with it, in so much as those that are no more can get away with anything. So do those things now. Reach out to those we want to connect to. Attempt to reconcile at this time today, and seek after justice via legal means in the here and now. Next comes, after complete oblivion, is the great life adventure. I talked about that a little bit before. It's the thing that we do in our youth, preferably, that becomes our story. We can have more than one great life adventure. I like to have one every 2 weeks on a Friday, but the big one, that's the one you should do young. Next is the season of philosophy, which is a time to record what we've learned along the way, to get it set down, to tell our story, and to have it ready, at the ready. Like this is sitting here. If I die of a heart attack right now, when my daughter comes to tidy up my stuff, my book is sitting right here. The key with that one is that when the words start to come in your head, and you can force them, but when they come of their own volition, write them down, because they won't be there. They won't be there later. They might not even be there 5 minutes from now. I've had many instances where I've been out adventuring on my motorcycle and pulled to the side of the freeway, so hastily typed down some words that are coming into my head. It's like radio signals from afar. Beep, 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 beep. And in my book, you can find those. I've illustrated them by the language that's just these italicized sections separated by a tilde. this is what I call the notes from my muse. That contrasts with, in the book, the standard prose. That's stuff that I had to mine out of my head. The stuff I had stuff in italics, unless it's a quote from somebody else. The stuff in italics seems almost to have come from somewhere else. I know that's not the case, but it seems that way. And I've read other authors describe the same thing. So it's a human phenomenon. I think it's a consequence of confluence of brain chemistry that suddenly brings inspiration to bear. And you better get it down, because your brain chemistry changes and it goes away. Makes sense. Okay, after the season of philosophy comes the bullseye aim. Just simply a reminder that we strive for the mark and we miss. Like yesterday when I was recording that video, everything went really good. That was my fourth full attempt. So it took 3 attempts prior to get it right. It went really smoothly, except the fact that the dog came over and wanted to sit in my lap, which is fine, but that's the bullseye. And as soon as it was happening, I was like, bullseye aim. And it helped me to not get upset or inside. I kept a good, calm, professional demeanor on the camera. But you could have an inner turmoil, and I didn't, because I was like, oh, okay, here's my missing the mark. The next principle is the uphill climb. Just a steady climb, upward and upward, upward through life. Then comes arena and utility. Life is this arena for the development of objectives and principles, and the execution of them in the best way we know how. Next is nothing is enough. Just a reminder that less is sometimes so much better. So much better. And then finally, the principle of fun. My reminder to have a good time, to enjoy life. It's not all this hard work and serious stuff all the time. I mean, I've got the thing which must be born tells me that I have to do my 9 to 5 for the sake of my family, especially my daughter, getting her through college. But I'm also going to enjoy life, in spite of the horror show. Maybe in pressing forward to relieve some of that horror in some way by living well and having the means and the capacity to do good. All right, that's my Good Life Creed. 7 objectives and 30 principles. The things that I live my life by and towards and for. Now, the coming day. Today's a unique day. It is exactly 2 months, come to think of it. I've been hired at the new job for 2 months. In 2 months, I've gone from 0 to 60. I came in there and joined a project and was able to write the project business case, project proposal, had the sponsor make a choice. We instigated a project plan. Then we put together a schedule and I created a communications and training plan. Then developed all the training content. Had all these things vetted by the team and approved and sanctioned as we went, and then developed the training program. Did the communication to leadership in the organization to give them a heads up, and to begin to solicit students. Laid out the courses, the 14 classes from mid-February through the end of August. Got the courses in place, and I began soliciting students. And on February 15th, we'll begin our first class. We are off to the races with this project of creating this thing. So I'd say that was a very good 2 months. I'm pleased. Today, I'm going to, I'll meet with the team and I'll communicate our status, which is in a good status. I'll get to do the status report to our sponsor on Friday. That'll be fun. And then I'm also going to turn my attention to another project, much bigger, but far less challenging, I think. It's more run-of-the-mill. And I'll also have a vendor project manager to work with, who this is what they do for their bread and butter. but it'll be a fun project. So I have a one big thick document I need to begin reading. So I'll probably put that document, bring my computer over, set it right here, sit in my comfy chair, my best seat in the house, and begin reading today. Thanks for joining me. I wish you all the best. Be safe, but not too safe.